Hello guys, Sirgrandolot here, long time no see, in part due to a very busy work schedule that I've been having recently, and in part due to the multitude of earthquakes that have hit Taiwan recently. I'm from Taiwan, by the way, in case you didn't know. This is the character that I've been working on in the last Epoch for quite some time now, and I don't like to make videos or content for characters that are low level and basically just made it past the campaign, because those characters do not properly represent the real strength of a character slash a build. For example, going through the campaign and basing monoliths with the Spellblade for me was relatively fun and very easy, but after that it was not only less easy but also way less fun. I have not enjoyed the Spellblade at all, and I dumped him very early. This, on the other hand, has been giving me a lot of joy. It's a Voidknight with the spin to win build. Although there are a few questionable choices when it comes to skill. Since I just mentioned the skills, let's go there first. I'm using Abyssal Echoes, which is probably something that is only temporary, but I find it relatively useful. The reason why I'm using Echoes in this build is that, well, you know, you need to have a spin to win build. I will put it on screen. I will not go node by node. You can have a look at what they are, and I will put a link to the build in the description. It's a spin to win mode. It's volatile reversal because it's very useful to recover mana and as a panic button. I'm using Sigils of Hope because in combination with volatile reversal and a lot of mana help from several sources, it's a good way to buff damage. And I didn't find many other things that I wanted to use in this slot. Here we have Anomaly, which I find very useful, but I'm still a little bit conflicted about a few things, in particular this node, because Anomaly being an instant cast is amazing for a build that just wants to spin to win, but at the same time the cooldown becomes basically endless. And I spent the first, I would say, 80-85 levels without this ability, and the uptime of Anomaly was much better. And having it an instant cast is safer, of course, but at the same time the downtime is extremely annoying. I have not decided yet whether I want to keep this node or respec all of this and probably invest something in this area to, you know, have the time lock on enemies. But that would come at a problem that in order to cast Anomaly you need to stop spinning, and when you stop spinning a lot of the defensive layers suddenly drop, like armor increase and other things. So I will have to decide. Why am I using Abyssal Echoes? Well, I do not have an active skill that I want to put here. For now. This is very important. You may notice I have this lunge on my skill bar, because I find it a very decent traversal skill. It's not trained, it's, you know, as you can see, it's not trained, it's just the basic lunge with nothing connected to it. It has 4-second cooldown, which is pretty decent. And I used it trained for some time to make it cheaper and have a double use, but this ability increases damage. And for the time being it's pretty good. And it increases damage because it can be triggered by Warpath. This is something that a lot of people don't take, and it's not amazing. Basically every 5 seconds you waste 35 mana to drop Abyssal Echoes, which is, you know, some extra AoE damage. You apply some slow, you stack shreds you stack armor shred stacks, and the armor shred has increased effect. Unfortunately you need to go here, making it cost more in order to improve the mana efficiency. It's really dumb. This is a skill that later on when I'm tackling harder corruption levels, I'm probably going to remove it and replace with Rebuke just to have an extra panic button. I used the Rebuke a lot when I was leveling because, you know, when you're a bit low on mana or there is something that you really want to tank, you pop a Rebuke, you stay there for a couple of seconds, everything is good and just with life. You're not going to die through Rebuke. And so I'm seeing the long-term plan for this build to be similar to this, but replacing Abyssal Echoes and removing Lunge from the quick bar and putting Rebuke here when it's properly trained. The way the build works is very simple, because you stack 4 Sieges of Ob at the beginning of an Echo. You cast Anomaly to recover mana, and then you start spinning around. The gear is problematic, but it's also not that bad, because almost everything that you want for this kind of build comes from the same enemy, which is the Shade of Ouroboros. You can get the Siphon of Anguish from the Shade of Ouroboros, you can get Shattered Chains from the Shade of Ouroboros. I've been using a Legendary Potential 1 for a long time, and just today I got Legendary Potential 2. Yeah, the rolls are a little bit worse. Actually, the rolls for the most part are a little bit better. I was mistaken. Only the armor is a bit worse, but it has good rolls. I really hope I will manage to get something like Void Damage, Hybrid Health. There are a few things in the belt slot. And now that I have 2 Shattered Chains with Legendary Potential, I have 2 shots at it. And Siphon of Anguish, again, you know, I use it double because everything that this ring does is great for the build. And you see, I have another Legendary Potential 3 here. The rolls, I believe, are a bit worse than this one. Quite a bit worse for the most part, but you know, it gives you some versatility when it comes to building the character. Omni, I'm using one because I need large amounts of resistances to make sure that everything is kept, especially when I'm spinning. Because when I'm spinning, some resistances go down, but then they go up, thanks to this. But once I switch to the Anchor of Oblivion, my resistances will look will look for the most part still okay. I would just like to have properly kept cold, because there are quite a lot of enemies that deal high cold damage later on. So, still a little bit of work to do when it comes to the resistances. Chest piece, Titan Heart, we don't get it from the Shade, but it's not a difficult piece to get at all. The problem is, this build really wants +4 to Warpath in the slot chest. Because you need to have all the nodes that reduce... well, you want to have a lot of nodes that reduce mana cost, as well as extra mana generation. Block becomes very useful when you start to tackle other content, and I'm using Abyssal Tempest. Later on, if I decide to remove Abyssal Echoes, you know, I can remove 1 point here. I will not be needing as much mana, because this is a 35 point mana used every 5 seconds, but once I remove this one, I can probably remove at least 2 points from here and have, I guess, some extra block chance. But we'll worry about that bridge when we get to it. And what were we talking about? We were talking a little bit about gear, right? Oh, yeah. I actually had a Legendary Potential 3 that was botched because it decided to get increased health. I don't remember what the other one was, and it missed completely Warpath, which was a huge bummer. But Titan Heart itself is not a difficult piece to get at all. And the boots are not particularly rare. They are the Dark Stride, which is farmed... it's target farmed in... I'm terrible with the names. This one, in Spirits of Fire. You can target farm it from nodes, it's not rare at all. I had multiples. I had one with tier 6 increased the movement speed for a long time, and every time that I got a Dark Stride with Legendary Potential, I would try to throw a tier 7 movement speed on it to see if I could snipe it. Eventually I managed to snipe it, and compared to the tier 6, the improvement is minimal, but you know, you go around spinning very happily. And of course, Apathy Maw. This is actually the reason why I wanted to build a a Voidknight. I got this one killing a shade while I was playing my Warlock. And, you know, when you get this kind of item, and not the Apatimo, by the way. The Apatimo itself, I got it a few days ago with the Voidknight. But the original X, that had 18 critical chance, 79 melee void damage, and plus 8 to all attribute, although I wanted the other substat, is something that I got while I was farming with the... what's his face? Don't send me messages, work. With the Warlock, while I was farming with the Warlock. And I decided to build a Voidknight because of that. These idols, I threw just a bunch of hit points there. Just very simple decision. I had a look at everything that had the most amount of hit points and some elemental resistances here and there, and I threw it in there. Later on, things will have to change a little bit in order of, you know, armor reduction to the enemy, extra void, melee damage, all those sort of shenanigans. But I'm currently in the process, and I will give you a showcase as I do that, of getting better blessings. Because, okay, this one is S, I will need to work on it. Extra mana is fine, especially for the time being, because this is a very mana-hungry build. I spent quite a lot of time farming the Reign of Dragons because I really wanted this blessing, and of course when I got it, it was close to the minimum roll, but I cannot complain. I got 20 on the Warlock. Here, armor while channeling, because this character channels pretty much all the time, and I spent an absurd amount of time here farming this timeline for my anchor. And I'm currently farming this for the increased armor percentage, because this is the one from the basic timeline, not from the empowered. So I will be clearing a few monoliths just to show you how the build works. It's a fairly easy build to play around. Don't ask me for rotation, because it's literally a matter of playing 2 buttons. Please don't ask for rotations in the in the comments, because I would not know how to reply. It's literally keep an eye on the sigils of hope to see when the number goes below 4, and when that happens, press sigil of hope. Other than that, you don't really do much. Here, we stack sigils of hope, anomaly, and we start to spin. I like to keep lunge in the quick bar, because every now and then you feel like you're wasting time by spinning around. Because, sure, it's pretty fast, it's a very speedy character because you get extra movement speed based on your melee void damage, but at the same time it's not extremely fast compared to characters that, instead of spinning, rely on traversal skill to be casted more often. And so I just like to have the dash on the bar, and every now and then I cast it just to get away from danger, or to approach packs of enemies that are at the edge of the monitor and I want to save a little bit of time. It would be nice to use it as an escape mechanism. The problem is that that kind of escape for now is only really needed during boss fights, and more often than not during a boss fight you don't have any other enemies around, and you can only cast lunge when you're targeting an enemy. Like, I cannot cast it in the boss. It's a traversal skill that you need to target something in order to cast. The 11th hour games really thought about everything. Bring it back. I think I can take it, yeah. This is very low corruption. I was doing close to 400 corruption in other timelines that I was farming either for blessing or for loot. And once I'm done in this timeline and I get the armor percentage increase of a decent value, I'm not 100% sure which timeline I will be grinding to make it to 1000. Because that's the goal. I would like to see if I can bring even the Voidknight to 1000 corruption after doing it with the Warlock. The problem is the fight with the Giga Crab is awful. I really hate it, and I don't want to bring that to 1000. The timeline with the anchor, in theory, is the one that I should farm, but I also really dislike the fight with the boss. there is just a bunch of AoE that is targeted at you, and not a lot of space for spinning around. It's not a particularly fun time. And I like the 3 fire dudes. I'm terrible with names, but you know, there is the timeline with the 3 fire dudes, one of them spins around and whatever. I like that fight, it works really well with this character, but I don't need anything from that timeline. I guess I will try to suck it up and farm a timeline where I can get hopefully a better anchor, but we'll have to wait and see. Anything useful? I would say not. What's this? Giga Garbo, let's move on. Did I die? I could have died. Almost. When not spinning, many of the defensive layers of this character completely drop. So it's kinda important to try to spin all the time, which is the reason why having Anomaly instant cast can be very valuable, but it would also be very valuable to have it available 50% more often. And as I was saying earlier, it's a decision that I've not completely made up.
Do that.
Currently my endurance is pretty low. It will be like that until I decide to make the switch to the anchor. I have not committed yet to the anchor, by the way, because once I finish farming this timeline, I will have a look at all my gear and I will craft the belt. Then I will craft... what else am I missing? The boots are done. I guess that after crafting the belt and seeing which stats I can get on it, I will also craft the anchor, and I will use a base that will try to fill any gap. Unfortunately, it's only legendary potential 1, so you know, it's 1 in 4 chances, and I cannot rely on the relic to have the specific thing that I will need to finish the build. Like, for example, if to have a tanky build that brings me to high corruption, I really need, I don't know, increase all the resistances while channeling. I cannot rely on a legendary potential 1 relic of getting exactly that. It's a 1 in 4. If it was an extra thing, sure, no worries. But as something that could be build defining, I cannot rely on it. So first I want to build the belt, craft the belt, see what I can get on it, then see what I will need on the relic and build the things accordingly. Because I do not have a lot of room for crafting right now on my build. Most of it will have to come from belt, relic, and switching around a few idols. The idol switching is going to be very important because some of those things will increase my damage output significantly at the cost of hit points, which means that if I get some extra hit points on the belt, it will actually be extremely good for my overall build, because I could drop some hit points from my relics, from my idols, while actually increasing damage. And it's still a work in progress. It's fairly fun to play. It can feel a little bit dull every now and then, because, you know, I'm literally keeping my finger on the Q button, and that's pretty much it. Now, every now and then, I need to refresh buffs and do other things, but overall it's not a build that requires particularly high APM or decision making or position. If anyone tells you, oh, this is a build where the skill ceiling required to play to optimal level is extremely... no, no, they're bullshitting you. They're absolutely bullshitting you. The only thing that requires a skill and decision making is, I'm in a difficult situation. I may die. Do I want to press the time reversal and reverse back time and maybe hop away from danger, or do I want to see if I can survive? And if you're playing this same build, but you decide to go with Rebuke instead of Lunge. I'm about to die, and I'm too close to whatever is trying to kill me. Do I want to see if I can survive, or do I want to press Rebuke? You know, I'm sure that some people may consider them difficult decisions to make that can clearly define the difference between a skilled and an unskilled player, but to me they're very, very basic stuff. Here, for example, I completely botched. That was amazing. But you know, I'm recording a video, so there is an excuse. Something that I always say while I'm streaming and I get insta-gift is that when I'm streaming or recording a video, my death rate or fail rate is 10 times higher just because I'm doing other things. I'm talking as I'm playing, so it's not like I recorded the gameplay and then 5 days after the fact I write a script and I talk to it. No, you know, everything is happening live. So you just saw me botch a rotation of 2 buttons being pressed one after the other. My brain had a gigafart and it happened. It will happen to you. Probably. Maybe not. Oh, just died. I really miss having Anomaly on a shorter cooldown, because it's such a huge damage in... such a huge buff in damage output. See what happens when I press Anomaly. 3, 2, 1, go. I went from 67 critical rate chance to 102. And that's a really huge damage increase among, you know, other things that that Anomaly brings to the table. I really miss it. You know, I've been spending... How long have I been recording? 20 minutes. I've been spending 20 minutes complaining about the fact that Anomaly has too long of a cooldown now, so I guess the testing with Anomaly on a long cooldown is done. I will have to go back to the lower cooldown, but I need to stop to cast it. Just to see how it feels now. But, you know, there's always time for testing. Now, for me, it's mostly time to, well, make it to 100, because I still need a level and a bit, which is going to take a few days. I forgot to show the passive now that I think about it. Oh my god, this means that in the video description, I will have to put a timestamp with passives that is going to be basically at the end of the video, which is going to be embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. But, you know, every time that I make a last Epoch video, I put, I try, when I remember to do it, the build in the description of the video, and very often even in the first pinned comment. No. And so, every now and then, showcasing properly skills and passives is something that completely leaves my aging brain. Who's still alive? Oh, a couple of doggies down here and a dog left there. Giga trash, as per usual. As per usual. Told you alive? Nah. Let's go to the passive. Because there is something that I want to mention about passives as well as skills. Currently my character looks like this. It's feeling fine for the time being, but just as I did for the Warlock, there is a chance that I will have to change a few things later on. In particular, right now I'm using this, which is a very nice damage increase as well as speed increase, and I'm planning to spend the remaining 2 points here. For an extra, what is it, 16%, I believe? 18%, something like that. Yeah, 18% damage and an extra 2% movement speed. But there is also the chance that as I go up in corruption, I will decide to scale this back a bit and invest in things that increase block chance, armor, vitality, hit point pool, and all that sort of stuff. I have not decided yet. What you are seeing is what I've been playing basically since the beginning. I had one point here because it looked neat, but it never triggers, so I decided to give it up and just focus on something more reliable. I like to have fast characters that can move around very speedily in maps. And I used to have 10 points here, actually 9. In extra strength and extra melee damage, because it was a nice damage output increase, but I decided to remove them and put them here in favor of void damage and movement speed. Which one is better, which one is worse, I don't know. If later on I feel like I need some extra tankiness, there are a few things about block chance here. You know, it could be 1 point here for extra vitality, 5 points here for extra block chance and block effectiveness, health gain on block. You know, there are a lot of options to increase the tankiness of the build, but it's not something that I feel like I need right now. And the highest I've been clearing was close to 400 corruption, if I remember correctly. And when I'm spinning, I have a nice amount of armor reduction. All the resistances are very good, some could be even lower. Currently the tooltip for a Warpath is like this. It starts at 62k, and then this happens when I pop Sigils and Anomaly. We go to 121k, which is very respectable. But there is a lot of up and downs because, you know, Sigils, the duration is not particularly long, the Anomaly buff, the duration is not very long, Volatile Reversal grants a buff, the duration again is not very long. But uptime for those buffs is mostly problematic against bosses, where it's harder to generate sigils on kill. Not all bosses spawn some random trash that we can kill, like for example the boss in Reign of Dragons, that every now and then spawns waves of small enemies. Killing them generates sigil, and it helps with the uptime. But for example, the Spirits of Fire, it's 3 dudes, and that's it, so you don't really generate many sigils. Age of Winter a bit better, but it's not a particularly important thing. Uptime is not very problematic, as long as you use Volatile Reversal properly. Long-term plan, as I was saying, rather than long-term current plan, farm Age of Winter until I can get a better increased armor percentage, because this is the base one. Then we will decide what to do. Maybe I will go back to Fall of Empire. What corruption am I in Fall of Empire? I farmed it quite a bit before getting an anchor. Just curious to see. I would start at 328. So I farmed this one longer than... no, I farmed this less than the Dragon Timeline, because I was close to 400 there. Feels bad, man. We have 2 shades. Well, you know what? To end the video, let's do a 328 shade. We try to take it down, see how things go. I have the feeling that I should do this against the shade. Need to focus a little bit. There are a few attacks from shade that can be particularly obnoxious. Finally some echoes. Should be done. GG. We got an amulet. We got an Omni. Wow! That's actually amazing. I record a kill and we get an Omni with... Outside of 2 rolls, pretty decent rolls actually. Nice. Content creator luck, I guess. I'm not even streaming. This is tier... oh, only tier 6, whatever. But then I can leave it on the ground and we can go. There were a couple of moments during which I kinda shit my pants during the fight. They were not particularly calculated, but... you know, it is what it is. That will be all for my Voidknight. We outskill the RNG gods again. I think I can do this just right away. Yes. Probably the only thing that I don't cap is cold. Yeah, I will need to craft cold resistance somewhere and then we're pretty much done with the resistances. That was nice, I finished my build, let's go!